Hi and welcome to the video. In this video we're going to be doing biology 0610 variant 33 of the May-June series from 2015. This is question number 2. So I'm going to walk you through this question. And remember to look out for some tips and save them for later as you might need them for other questions. Also, remember to watch till the end as many students find part B and C a bit tricky. So you won't want to miss that. So let's get started. Some plants can be grown in water using the technique of hydroponics. The roots are in water and supplied with ions that they need at the concentrations that support maximum growth. Some ions can be absorbed both by diffusion and by active transport. State 2 features of diffusion that do not apply to active transport. So the first feature would be that diffusion requires no energy. Okay, this is the first one, that diffusion requires no energy. However, if you do not want to write it like this, you can write it in the other way, which is it is passive. This is the better way to write it, and this is how I prefer to write it, that diffusion is passive, meaning it does not require energy. And active transport is active, that's why it's called active transport. Okay, so the point 2 would be that diffusion is down the concentration gradient. Diffusion is down the concentration gradient. And active transport is up the concentration gradient, but the better way to write it would just be diffusion is down the concentration gradient. So this will give you 1 mark, this will give you 1 mark, and you'll get 2 marks, and we're happy with that. So we're just going to leave it as it is. Let's go to part 2. Part 2 is explain how roots are adapted to absorb ions. So in this we just need 2 points as it is a 2-mark question. So we can mention 1 point and explain it, or we can mention 2 points and explain them. So that's your choice. I preferably go with 2 points and explain them, because if one is wrong, then you're still gonna get the mark from the other. So this is saying roots grow and spread through the soil to search for minerals. They absorb iron efficiently through root hairs, which increase the surface area for better uptake, using carrier molecules and energy from respiration. Roots perform active transport to take in minerals against the concentration gradient, ensuring essential nutrients are absorbed. So the first point we will make from this would be roots grow and spread through the soil to search for minerals. Second point would be that they absorb ions efficiently through root hairs. You have to include the keyword root hairs, and you have to include the keyword increased surface area. And this allows for better uptake. This is not really necessary, but you may include it. Using carrier molecules and energy, this would be the third point. So you have to mention this keyword, carrier molecules or protein carriers, and energy from respiration. Roots perform active transport. You have to mention this to take in minerals against the concentration gradient, ensuring essential nutrients are absorbed. So this would be 4. There are 4 points I've mentioned here. You only need 2, and you'll get 2 marks easily here. So we're happy with that too. Now let's go down to part B. Part 1. Calculate the percentage change in mass of the onions that were in the most concentrated solution of sodium chloride. Show your working and write your answer in table 2.1. This is a 2-mark question, so you're going to have to show your working too. So let's go on. A group of students investigated the effect of soaking small onion bulbs in different concentrations of sodium chloride solution. They peeled off the outer papery leaves of the onion bulbs and divided the onions into 6 batches, each with 10 onions. The onions were surface dried with paper towels and weighed. The mean mass of the onions in each batch was calculated, and the onions were left in sodium chloride solution for 3 hours. Then after 3 hours, the students surface dried the onions and weighed them again. The results are given in table 2.1. Okay, so before we do this part, I will tell you the tip. Remember to look at whether the mass is decreasing after the onions have been soaked to know whether to put a negative sign or a positive sign. Okay, so what I mean here is the final mass of the onions is F, which is after soaking for 3 hours, and before soaking is the initial mass, which will give U. So if F is greater than U, then it will be try to guess what it will be. It will be positive sign. And if U is greater than F, then it will be a negative sign. So in this case, for example, let's take the example of the 0 concentration of sodium chloride. Before soaking it is 147, and after soaking it is 173. So the change is positive. So F is greater than U. So then it'll give us a positive percentage change. Okay, so now let's do this one. Okay, so the answer to this, so the formula for percentage would be final minus initial over initial, which is 183, which is u. So this would be f minus u, which is 175 minus 183 over 183. Yeah. So we would have right here, let's just put that into a calculator. 175 minus 183 is minus 8 divided by 183. So you get your answer as 0.04 minus 0.04. Okay, this is not the correct answer, as you're going to have to multiply by 100 to get the percentage. So we are going to get minus, multiply that by 100. Let's just say yes, and we get minus 4.73, or just 4.7. You're probably going to be getting 4.06 minus 4.06, so that would also be correct, but rounding it off to minus 4.7, it just simplifies it. So that's the answer, and it's right. So you will get 2 marks for this. So I should mention here that there's another way to do it. So like we could just do u minus f as well, which is starting minus final over 83. Then we would get about 0.04. We would get the same answer, but as positive. And as we know that the mass is less as the final and it is more in the initial, so it is going to be negative. So we just convert it to negative, just like that. So you can do it in any way, but the better way is final minus the initial. Okay, so let's move on to part 2. Explain why students calculated the percentage change in mass of the onion. This is like 3 marks. So the answer is just each onion has a different start and end mass, exception of the last 2. So basically what this means is that all the onions have different start masses and end masses. So we would need to calculate the percentage change in mass to compare the effect of the concentration of sodium chloride. This would also provide a fair comparison between the tests and experiments, because if we just were to measure the difference in mass, this would not give us a fair comparison, as each of the before soaking and after soaking masses are different. So for example, if we took before soaking 149 and after soaking 142, we'd get 7. Okay, we'd get 7. And if we took the one with 100, the mass is 154, so the answer would be completely different. So this would give us unfair results. So that's why to provide a fair comparison between the tests. And they can also determine the water potential of the onion, which would be, so they can figure out it would probably be 0. So they can determine the water potential of the onion. Okay, let's move on to part C. This is another tricky part. Let's do it. So another tip here, it's a very obvious tip, but just observe the graph carefully, as you might lose marks. Okay. Part 1. Complete the graph using your answer to B1. Now what did we get the answer in B1? Let's just go up. Minus 4.7. Okay, so we just need to locate minus 4.7. As we know that minus 4.7 was the same as the previous one, because for the concentration of 150 we also got minus 4.71. So we just have to put it in line to that. So 200, it should be about here somewhere. So something like that. So your graph will look something like that. Okay. Use the graph in figure 2.1 to estimate the concentration of the sodium chloride solution that has the same water potential as the onions. This is the tricky part. Okay, so basically what they mean by the same water potential as the onions is that there would be no change in mass at all. So the percentage change in mass would be 0. So we just need to find where the percentage mass is 0. So over here on this line, I don't think you can see it, but I'm just gonna, yes, on this line it is 0. So we just need to find a point on this graph, which is over there, which is about here. This point is on 0, and this is about here. It's not 45 exactly, it's maybe a pinch below 45. So the answer would be 44. There is a allowance of plus minus 1, so you could write 43 or 45. You'd still have the correct answer. So that's 2. This is 1. Let's go back. Using the term water potential, explain why onions gain mass when soaked in dilute solutions of sodium chloride. In dilute solutions of sodium chloride, the water potential is higher outside and the onion cells than inside. This causes water to move into the cells by osmosis, increasing the turgor pressure and leading to an increase in mass as the cells become turgid. Now I'm going to explain to you some of the keywords mentioned in my answer. The first keyword you have to use is water potential, as they have literally told you in the question that you have to use water potential, so you kind of have to. Okay, the second would be that the concept that the water potential is higher outside the onion. Okay, it is higher outside the onion than inside the onion. This is why the water goes into the cells because of osmosis, which is the movement from an area of low water potential to an area of high water potential. From an area of high water potential to an area of low water potential. So as the high water potential is higher on the outside of the onion, it would move towards the onion cells, which would cause the cell to get inflated, or in proper words, turgor or turgid. The word for this is turgid, which means being inflated. So this would increase the turgor pressure inside the cells, and this would lead to an increase in mass of the cells as they become bigger or turgid, or as they become filled with sodium chloride. Okay, and the next part is lost mass when soaked in concentrated solutions of sodium chloride. Okay, in concentrated sodium chloride solutions, the water potential is lower outside the onion cells due to the higher solute concentration. Water moves out of the cells, resulting in plasmolysis, where the cell membrane pulls away from the cell wall, causing the onion to lose mass. Okay, so I'll also explain some keywords in this. In the concentrated sodium chloride solutions, the water potential is lower outside the onion cells due to the higher solute concentration. Now listen, what does solute mean? Solute is the thing that is dissolved inside the solvent, which is the solvent is basically the water, for example. So if you were dissolving sugar in water, your water would be the solvent and the solute is the sugar. So the solute over here means the sodium chloride, okay? So it is less concentrated. Water moves out of the cells, resulting in plasmolysis. Now, the description of plasmolysis I will explain right now, over here with some sort of diagram. Please don't make fun of my drawing, I'm not that good at drawing. So, this is the cell, okay? And this is the cell membrane, kind of. So right now it's attached to the cell wall, okay? But when plasmolysis happens, this cell wall, it just completely detaches from the cell membrane, so it just becomes like, this is the cell membrane, something like this. It becomes shriveled up or detached from the cell wall. This all becomes an empty gap. There's nothing in this gap. So the cell membrane pulls away from the cell wall, causing the onion to lose mass. The reason why the onion loses mass is because when it plasmolyzes, so it loses water or loses the water potential. So it will lose the mass as it is losing the water. Now this entire question will give you 4 marks. Now this part is 2 marks, and this part, the part down here, is 2 marks. Indeed, yes, it is 2 marks as well. And this will give you 4 entire marks. And if you did the entire question correctly using my guide, then there is no doubt that you are going to get 15 out of 15 in this question. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you subscribe, I just really appreciate it.